God have mercy on your twisted soul.
If we ever want to be free, we have to stop hiding.
All of you combined are stronger than you know.
It's an illness. It can be treated.
I don't understand. I don't understand!
What are you afraid of, Roma?
I won't run. I'll fight.
We fight until they realize this is our home and we're fighting with our lives!
How did you decide which stories to focus on? Because these were all based on real people.
Yeah, I had a checklist. For me, I wanted, number one, I wanted to make sure that these were people from other social justice movements, not just the LGBTQ movement. It was my concern when I started working on this series that social justice movements had stopped working together. Not out of animus, just because we'd sort of gotten drunk on some of our successes. And the real power of any movement is how we work together with other social justice movements. So if you've seen the series, you know that these characters come from the women's movement, the black civil rights movement, the peace movement. They eventually give back to fight for health care and immigration reform for their neighbors. That was number one. Number two, I wanted them to be lifelong activists, because I wanted to be able to tell their story from their youth and until today. And that's rare. Being an activist is exhausting. I think probably a lot of you guys in here know that. Persistence is the toughest part of creating change. These characters are people who started that when they were teenagers and are still fighting today. And last but not least, I wanted to end the narrative in most civil rights film and television shows that if you fight for your life and for your neighbor's life to be better, you have to die in the end. I wanted to say you can fight for your life, you can fight for your neighbor's rights as hard as you do your own, and you can survive and thrive.
They'll leave us alone.
What makes you so sure?
Because I grew up with a vengeful God, always watching me, and a curious mom watching just as close. Hellfire and endless questions. I ran all the way here to get away from all that.
With a project like this, how do you balance yourself in your mind, the educating and entertaining at the same time?
It's hard to be inspired as a young person or to have hope out there in the country if you don't know you have four fathers and four mothers. And so the whole point of this was to finally bring that history to the screen in a popularized fashion in order for it to feel truthful and connect, particularly for LGBT equality. It has to be personal. The political is always personal to LGBTQ people. We're talking about our families. We're talking about love when we talk about politics. So I did focus it on this group of friends, and thankfully I found a group of friends, real people, who checked all those boxes I mentioned earlier. But they had formed a little makeshift family when they had to leave their homes as kids. And they started having families of their own as they got older. And so I was able to tell it with a universal language of family.
Did you envision these actors in the roles when you were writing it?
Only one. I was envisioning Mary Louise Parker as Roma Guy, because knowing the real Roma, who's very funny, but she will cut you down if you lie. Well, that's Mary Louise Parker. And she was the first to sign on to the show and say yes. And when she signed on to it, this impossible dream of getting this kind of show on ABC so that young people could see it and know they have four fathers and four mothers, and be inspired, well, I think Mary Louise signing on to do it really kicked that into high gear.
You're very active on social media. I know that you interact with the fans a lot. What are you hearing the most from people?
I will get tearful about this. This show, I've never had anything so well received in my career. And I've had a blessed career. You know, the feedback, I mean, the critics have been great. I mean, that's been beautiful. But really getting the messages from LGBTQ kids from across the country who had no idea, from parents who now understand their kids struggle a little bit better, and just the reception from LGBTQ people. We are a big, messy family, and we infight a lot, and we yell at each other a lot, and we don't always agree. Welcome to social justice movements. And to see that the only criticism I've gotten from the LGBTQ movement is more depictions of who we are, more diversity in the depictions of who we are. We need more stories, and I think LGBTQ people in particular are understanding the power of history. This show at its root says that we are stronger together, that you can beat a backlash together, not just LGBTQ people together, but all of our social justice movements locked arm in arm, pushing back against this backlash to get us moving towards progress again for all people.